All right, so this is part 2. Okay, I just pointed out that when Jesus was struck in front of the high priest, he asked him, why did they strike him if he did nothing wrong? He didn't say it was wrong too. So it says it's right to strike sinners if they are misbehaving in front of an important religious figure, for example. And it's right to, and capital punishment is also correct. Again, he said, the one who, that's why I underline it right here, it says, you who is without sin, cast the first stone. Okay? Without sin. Just like it says in the other part where it says, first remove the log from your own eye, then you can remove the speck from your brother's so you can see clearly. Okay? And I said, also to you were the prophets wrong to deliver the law which puts sinners to death by stoning. The Bible says Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So why didn't Christ disagree with God? And for you who believe that Christ is God, okay, why did God write the law in the first place that allowed people to be stoned to death for being a sinner? Do you think it's fair that they're allowed to be stoned to death? They're allowed to stone people to death back then, but after Jesus comes, magically, they're no longer allowed to stone people to death? That's hogwash. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Okay. I say it was reinforced by the prophets as the law is in the logic and spirit. So the law isn't a matter of mere word. It's a matter of spiritual power. And it's there to correct this kind of primitive people and to push them into the essence of the law. Okay? It's like Paul said, he said, first we give him milk, and then when you're older, we'll give you a food with more sustenance, like bread or whatever example he used. See, they were getting prepared to be pushed into the essence of morally precise logic and to masterfully move like martial art training or something. They're advancing, right? Okay. Not believing God leads to sin. If one refuses to concede logic, they are not treating you fairly, and they are a fool that causes you harm. Going back to Proverbs 13:20. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Okay, and then I cite that again here. Okay, or this is the first time I cited it, actually. This conversation actually came after this one in the thing, but I put that one there first to kind of show you in her own words when she's asked directly to kind of take her time to explain what would happen. See part 1 again. Okay. All right, and if you have to pause and listen again and ask me questions, feel free to do so. But it's clear that I've won, even though I'm fumed and poisoned and persecuted, and this person isn't. That's the Spirit of God for you. It's guiding me on the right path while she's being guided on the wrong path by her churches and her family and her community and so on and so forth, and the government and so on and so forth. Okay. She says, though it meant anything wrong. Okay. So here, going back to this again, right, where she says, you sent the random reference. Okay. And I go on to say, okay, as you accuse me falsely as Satan would, what exactly is self-righteous about me? She said, if I told you, would you believe me? Your whole attitude. You belittled me at the beginning of the argument, telling me of your accomplishments. Okay? I said, and then I say, this next comment on the thing before she finishes saying that. Did Christ in the story not say wisdom is proven right by her deeds? So why then do you reject my deeds? Okay? As it has to do with understanding the essence of the message. When David struck down Goliath, did he have intimate knowledge of God? Others didn't. So I asked him, okay, so basically, this is her finishing her comment over here. Let's just read that again, because we kind of spoke at the same time. That's kind of what happens on TikTok. Part of why I don't like it, and part of why it's unfair for them to prevent me from doing things like FaceTime by causing me to have a condition that doesn't allow me to do those things. Anyway, so he says, if I told you, would you believe me? Your whole attitude. You belittled me at the beginning of the argument, telling me of your accomplishments because it sounds like bragging. It's not relative to the convo, and add nothing other than I want to feel better than you. You see how she's way off. That is in a nutshell is where the church is wrong, and every other thing they're wrong about springs from that. Okay? There is a divine order. Okay? Paul put himself above the other Christians. Christ said he's the Messiah. He said John is Elijah come back, elevating John above the other Christians. Okay? There's a divine order. And to reject it is what Satan does. He rebels against what? God and the divine order. And what is the proof of the divine order? Is deeds. Right? Wisdom is proven right by her deeds. The wise, righteous king is the king. And the mere rebel with a rebel's understanding of the Bible is supposed to obey God through me. It's that simple. So I said, did Christ in the story not say wisdom is proven right by her deeds? So why then do you reject my deeds, as it has to do with the understanding, the essence of the message? Okay? My deeds have to do with the essence of the message. And I use David as an example. When David struck down Goliath, did he have intimate knowledge of God? Others didn't. She says, nope. She says no. She's saying that David, when he struck down Goliath, did not have intimate knowledge of God that others didn't. She's saying that him being king, by default, that suggests, at least, if not definitively shows, that she's saying David is king, guided by God, did not have intimate knowledge of God that others didn't. Isn't that preposterous? He says, nope. If you read the story of David, David's is outraged that no one is standing up against the bully, not because David wants spiritual dominance. So she's saying that even though these armies are clashing, and it's also a clash of spirits, right? Dagon versus God, right? The Philistines and Goliath and Dagon as the deity and as the king's deity of the Philistines versus God. She's saying that he did not want God to dominate over Dagon. Complete rubbish. This is a flat out lie. Okay, and it's a result of rejecting truth. Once you lie about what God wants you to do, you have to tell a bunch of other lies to cover up those lies. And that's what you see playing out here. And this person is actually a lot nicer than a lot of people. They're nice enough to debate it with me, and I appreciate it, and discuss it with me, argue with me, whatever you want to call it. But they aren't loyal to God. And that's key here. The word sin, S-I-N, is nice, N-I-S, spelled backwards. Instead of N-I-C-E, it's N-I-S. Okay? The word name is mean, scrambled. And the word truth is the letter T, and hurt, scrambled. How many of you think that's a coincidence? Over here we have 1 Samuel 17:46. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. This very day I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. So he's saying he's going to strike them down, and the world will know that Israel's God is greater than the Philistines' God, that there's a God in Israel, and he struck them down. For those of you who aren't convinced still, 1 Samuel 17:47. All those gathered here will know it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands. So he's saying God's spirit is going to dominate over you and Dagon and your king and your Philistine spirit, okay? And he's going to hand you into our hands, right? Now, this has implications in spirit, okay? Did John the Baptist have the enemies of God handed into his hands physically? No. Did Jesus? No. Okay? Did Stephen the martyr? No. Did the disciples and apostles in Acts? No. So what does it mean? It means on the highest level, because all of true victories are in principle, in the long term, okay? This was just used as an example to make people believe and to get the things to play out a certain way, which would lead to me coming back as the top martial artist ever, and in principle, everybody being handed into my hands as they weren't man enough or woman enough to obey God through me. And I had my up to $10 million if compensated, $60,000 if not, pay nothing if you lose, legal and peaceful, 10-year martial art challenge since 2013 and counting. Okay? The last valid challenge due to tech, breeding, and ill-gotten gains, right? In the future, especially when you look at sports these days, it's fake as hell. There's a bunch of sissies. In the future, no one can claim a valid martial art victory that's greater, and Bruce Lee would not last 2 seconds in me in hand-to-hand combat with weapons, okay, or sparring. He would lose quickly, okay? I have pictures that show that. I have demonstrations. It's clear-cut, okay? And I put, just like I defended my argument here and I won my top martial arts challenge, okay? And part of it is people are saying ridiculous things by their actions and their way of thinking. They basically are acting like this, and it's creating a bigger gap. So while everyone else failed miserably and started acting like this, I masterfully transcended. And they're saying things like this, right? I said, look, does it bother you? This is a different person. Does it bother you that 9 million people starve to death a year, 3 million are children, and there are over 600,000 homeless? He says, no. That doesn't affect my life. It's simply survival of the fittest, population control, starvation and poverty has nothing to do with my life. You see how I just completely transcend everybody from every culture, okay? The kind of liberal, kind of corporate sex cult culture that person was a part of, okay? Completely trampled and transcended with my argument. I'm manning up, that female is not womaning up. The masses of Christians, I'm manning up, they're not manning up or womaning up. Straightforward. Thank you.